and I made this all by myself. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is vlog number 46 for Monday, November the 27th, 2017. I don't know where the month's gone. November just right flew by, and well, tail end of this week we start into December and full-on Christmas preparations and things like that. Bah, humbug, whatever. So what have I been up to? Well, let's see. I made a traveler's notebook. This was a idea that came from, I can't remember whose website it was. Oh yes, Crafty Hodges. Crafty Hodges, I reviewed that YouTube channel last week. And if you remember, I directed you to a related website that has a lot of these little funky characters, quirky creatures, as Crafty Hodges calls them. And she shows you how to make a traveler's notebook. Now, I've made traveler's notebooks and journals before, but what's a little unique about this one is what it's made from. This is made from a magazine, and I'll show you. I added the little strap inside. It's pretty thick, and as you can see on the cover, I use some of her suggested quirky characters, and I used the papers. Now, you buy these on this website. They're very inexpensive, but I use the papers and washi tape to cover each of the pages. So if you're interested in learning how to make this kind of traveler's notebook, I've put the link in my notes below, and it's really easy. And you just use any old magazine and you cut it down, and then you fold the pages in half, glue them together, and then you decorate them whatever way you want. So this did not take long to do, and I haven't done anything in it yet. I'm going to dedicate this one to using the little quirky creatures that I purchased on the Mischief Circus site. And I think it's Mischief Circus. I think I was calling it last week Mischief Circle. It's Circus. And again, you will find the link to that website in my notes in last week's vlog number 45. Okay, so, and it's very strong. It's a very substantial traveler's notebook once you get all the papers in it. And a technique that I also learned, which was kind of neat, Crafty Hodges says that after she's done her cover and covered it, she uses some artist varnish, polymer varnish, and goes over the cover, and that protects it. And I never really ever thought about doing that. I have done it in matte medium before, but never the varnish. And the varnish dries very quickly, and it does. It gives it a nice surface. And then she suggested waxing it. And I used my Dorland's wax on this, and you know I use that usually in my journals to keep the pages from sticking together. So I just applied a thin film of that on here and buffed it off. And that gives it a nice smooth feel. One thing I would recommend, though, is before you do the varnishing and before you do the waxing, put whatever you're going to put on the cover down first, because once the wax hit it, these little suckers did not want to stick. And I had to use matte medium to get them glued down, and then I went over everything again with another coat of varnish. But I notice here on the back, this one is peeling off, so I've got to fix that. I just put in a simple elastic type of band inside, just put a hole through in the center of the book, tied a knot in it. I'll show you, there's the knot right there, pulled it through, and that serves as my binding, or not binding, but enclosure. So it's a very durable journal and easy to make, and a good way to recycle old magazines that would otherwise go in the landfill. So that was one thing I made this week. Now, a couple of other things that I made. I'm really proud of this. I made, I've been sewing and trying to do some machine quilting and stuff like that, and I'm still in the beginning stages. So of course, like anything else I do, I never do anything in a half measure. I get into something and I go all out. So, just trying to sort this out here. It's hard to show it. I made an extra large tote bag, and it has a square bottom, as you can see there. Very proud of this. The pattern for this, I used my Cricut maker to cut the pieces out. Walter thinks it looks a little too feminine. Well, it's because it's two-toned. I made a mistake, several mistakes. Well, one mistake was this was not supposed to be the outside of the bag. The outside of the bag was supposed to look like this in here. This is the lining. That was what the whole bag was supposed to look like, with this material on the outside. And I didn't have enough of this material to make the inside and the outside look the same, so I just used some of this material that I had because I figured, well, this is going to be the lining anyways. Somehow I got things turned around, and this ended up being my outside. Actually, I just thought of something. If I turn this inside out, I wonder. I'll do that off camera. But one thing I want to point out are these corners. These were really tricky to make, at least in the explanation, but I managed to get 3 out of 4 of them right. One of them, I knew it was wrong when I started to do it, but I just kept doing it. And so you can see here there's a little bit of a pucker right in here. I got something sewn in there that I shouldn't have. One of the corners or something got folded over. Now, I could take it apart and fix that, except I don't think I have enough material because you clip off the excess. And to be honest, I don't want to take things apart. So live and learn. It's not that noticeable. It doesn't affect the way the bag works. But yeah, I am really proud of this. Now, it's very hard to show it in the camera. Lean back here. How's that? A little better. Now, I could have put a zipper in it, but I didn't. I thought about it. I had the zipper out. The Carol on Cricut Crafts, I think that's her. I've reviewed her before too in past vlogs. She did put in a zipper, although she didn't show how she did that. She said it was the first time she had ever done that, so she didn't want to show people and then show them the wrong way. I have a good idea from that little thing I made last week on how to put a zipper in it. But for this bag, I decided I'm just going to leave it open. So anyways, I'm really quite proud of what I have done here. And as I said, I think I might be able to fix this little problem that I've got. I just realized, but I'm not going to take your time when I fix that problem to get the bag all the same color on the outside. Okay, very proud of that. I am. I don't sew much, but I'm really getting into it. I guess it's because it's a machine and I like machines. So now the other thing I did, and this was actually on my inspiration list to talk about this week, and I had here making a crazy quilt with scraps. Then I decided on the weekend, let's not just talk about it, let's do it. So I did it, and actually it's quilted. And I showed it yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live, and the link to Stephen and Walter Live is below as well. But I'll show it again. And again, it's a fairly big piece. But what it is it could be a runner for a table, or it could be a hanging banner. Now, I haven't put any straps in it yet to hang it up. And I was thinking about getting some of those little D rings or the C rings and just sewing them into the back in here so you could hang it up on that. Or I could put in a couple of straps where you could put a piece of doweling in behind. But I don't know yet because I really don't know where I'm going to hang it. But it was more of an experiment than anything else. And these butterflies are from some of the scrap material I had left over. And I want them to stand out from the rest of the pattern. And I used the Cricut maker again to cut out my squares, to cut out my butterflies. I hand stitched the little dotted line that runs through, connecting all the butterflies along their little flight path sort of a thing. I added some little jewels that I had in my stash. I used fabric glue, and to break up the boredom of this border, I got some fiber I've had laying around for years, this fuzzy fiber, and I just fabric glued it to the edge, just to make it, you know, a little bit more interesting. So anyways, this was a neat experiment. Are there mistakes in it? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like for example, my corners are not mitered up here with this bias tape because I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't take the time to figure out how to do that for this piece. So this just overlapped. But next time I do something like this, I will purposely look up how to do a mitered corner. And my squares did not come out actually straight in some cases. You see that they're off, like this one a little bit. And I have quilted all along here. But I kind of, you know, the quilling went this way, that way. I'd like to try my hand at, what do they call it, free sewing quilting or whatever, where they make the designs all over with the sewing machine. Not sure if I'm up to that yet, but I might try it. I might try it on just one little square to get the hang of it and see how that works. The back is 2 pieces of material because I didn't have a piece of material long enough for the whole thing, so I just sewed 2 pieces. What's that? Got a string. 2 pieces together, and that's the backing, and it's got bunting in the center, so it's nice and, you know, soft. Anyways, I'm pretty proud of that too. My own design kind of thing. So I looked at this as more as a piece of art rather than as a practical quilt kind of thing to be used. That's the attitude I went in with it. That way you can get away with a lot more, right? I can say that it's artistically done. I didn't make any mistakes. That was all on purpose for the art. Yeah, right. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I've had a very much sewing week. And I think it's time to return to my roots, and I really need to do some art journaling. So I'm going to get out my art journal. I haven't done any art journaling for a while. In fact, I don't think I've done any art journaling since the last class I taught in art journaling. And to be honest, the reason I haven't is I just haven't felt that inspired lately for that. But I was watching some videos yesterday. Mike Deacon was doing a flip through one of his first journals, and that gave me some inspiration again. So maybe later today I'll pull out one of my art journals and do a page. I've got his new stencils that I want to try out as well, so kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I'll probably do a video at the same time while I'm doing that, and post that later in the week. That's my ideas. This is going to be a busy week. I have a lot of projects that I need to get to. Some of them have to do with Christmas. I need to decorate. I'm only decorating one room, my rec room. Reason for that is usually we're not here for Christmas. The last 4 years we have been somewhere else, usually somewhere warm. I don't enjoy Christmas. I've talked about that before. Although having said that, it's not so much that I really hate Christmas. I just hate the hubbub and everything that's there. And well, I'm not going to get into it because I've already mentioned that, I think, in a couple of things. I've mentioned them on my vlog. I've mentioned it in Stephen and Walter Live. So I don't need to bore you to tears with the details about why I hate Christmas. So I'm confining the decorations to one room, my rec room, because I'm going to have people over here for Christmas dinner, but there'll be too many to sit around my dining room table, so it's going to be buffet. And that's the best area in my house for that kind of thing. And that's the only room I'm decorating. And I'm not even putting up a full-size tree this year. I got a small tree, got to pull it out of the box. I've got gingerbread houses to make, which I have never made before, so I got to do those this week. And I am going to video my trials and tribulations of creating one of these. Mind you, I am not doing it right from scratch. I'm not baking the panels for the houses. I got a kit for $9. So I have no idea what this kit's going to look like. But it's one of those things I've always wanted to do, so I'm going to give it a shot. And what else is happening this week? Well, we'll go down to that. I'll collect myself here, but while I'm doing that, why don't you take a look at the YouTube channel of the week. This particular individual has been on YouTube forever. She has her own store down in the States. She travels around to various events, so this is probably not somebody that will be new to you at all. But go ahead, take a look. This week's YouTube channel is one by a lady who's been around for a long time, has a store somewhere down in the southern United States, and is usually seen with people like Ken's Creations or Melody Lane, that kind of thing. It's called Maymay Made It Crafts. And there are all kinds of interesting techniques and inspiring ideas for using a variety of materials. Although this is fairly heavy on things like Bible journaling and scrapbooking, there are still many elements that she presents that are very useful for art journaling and other crafts as well. So if you've never checked this out, or if you've never heard of Maymay, which is hard to believe you've never heard of Maymay, then you might want to check out her her YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel is Maymay Made It Crafts. So the link for Maymay Made It YouTube channel is listed in the links below, as is the link for Stephen and Walter Live that we did yesterday. And just a note, if you're one of my regular viewers for Stephen and Walter Live, or if you're someone new to it, then I want you to know that it will be on Sunday. Sunday's the day that we have decided that that's when we're going to do them now. Sunday at around 4, but not this particular Sunday. Reason being is I'm teaching a class in my monthly art journal class this coming Sunday, and that runs from 1 until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So instead of coming on at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, Stephen and Walter Live will start at approximately 5 o'clock. And I will try to send out a short little YouTube reminder about that probably on Saturday, if I don't forget. So just to recap that, Stephen and Walter Live will be on this Sunday, but at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time as opposed to 4 o'clock. Okay, other things I've got linked down below. I did a video last week about making cards using your embossing folders. This is a class that I have developed to teach at my art gallery where I volunteer. And you've heard me talk about this before too, where I make cards every so many months. The volunteers get together and we make these cards, and I lead the class and show them different techniques for making cards. And then these cards are used by the art gallery as thank you notes and things like that for other events or for guests of the gallery or whatever. They hand those out. So we'll be making those. I don't know, it's going to depend on the number of people that show up for this. The last one I did was in September. There was only 3 people with it. One, it was sort of short notice at the time for that one. And 2, I don't know, people get busy. Maybe some aren't that interested in making the cards and things like that. I supply all the materials for this. I'm a volunteer, but basically the art gallery does not have a budget for this kind of thing. But, you know, I look at it as my donation to the art gallery, so that's okay. But if I only have a handful of people at this next one, then I'm going to suggest to the powers that be that really this is a waste of time. You know, when I first started doing them, I was getting 10 or 12 people coming out. But now I don't know. I think, and especially, you know, December's probably not a good month because everybody's busy with Christmas things, but also the space that we use for this has been pre-booked as well, so we're slipping it in where we can, and that makes things a little difficult for people to plan around too. So there's a variety of factors, but if I only have 2 or 3 people at this next one, then I'm going to suggest that I'm not going to do them anymore. If they need cards, I'll be happy to make them cards and supply them with them on my own. As simple as that, to keep their stash up of that kind of thing. Again, as part of my donation to the art gallery. You know, so we'll see. We'll see how that works out. And I've already told you the Traveler's Notebook, how to make that is in the link below. And then there's a link to And this is another one of the inspirations I was going to talk about, but I'll talk about it now. Nina Ribena, who I have reviewed her YouTube channel before, she was making little ornaments or tassel-like things from wine corks. And they look really nice what she made. Now don't laugh too hard because I'm going to show you the one I made. I have a big box of wine corks. And I thought, well, this will be an interesting way to use them. I was also thinking on that runner that I made a week ago that I showed you. Someone mentioned I should make some tassels for the end of it. And I thought, well, this might be a way to make tassels as well. Okay, so I made one. It's not good. So here it is. All right. I took a wine cork, I wrapped it in several times around with this red lacy kind of ribbon. Then I had this other ribbon that was already bound on the edges. Actually, it was leftover pieces from my sister-in-law way back years ago when she was making Christmas placemats, and it was the trim for them, and she had leftover pieces, and they were in the bag that we had here with this stuff. So I pulled those out, just used a glue gun, put in some wire, twist it to make a loop, glued it into the cork, put a hole in the cork, and Nina Ribena shows you how to do this. Looked in my stash, found a little bead thing on the top for here. I found these resin-like flowers, stuck those down with the glue gun. It was all done with the glue gun. I did this in about 10 minutes or less. Same thing on the bottom, had these little beads, put another wire in it, and there you go. Now, it's kind of hideous, okay? But I didn't put a lot of thought into it. I was just trying the technique for one thing. And I don't think I'll be making any more of them because I find it a little tedious. They're cute. It's, you know, if you got some wine corks laying around and, you know, and there's different things you could do with them, all kinds of different things you could do with them. And Nina Ribena is the best spot to go and see what this has the potential for. But I gave it a shot and yeah, whatever. That's done. Okay, so that brings us to what's pissing me off this week. Public childcare. Okay, now, let me say a few things about this. And I know I'm going to strike a note with some people, especially women who have children. I don't have any children. Now, you know that because I'm gay, so I don't have any children. I could have children if I wanted to. I could adopt. Have I ever wanted to? No. Have I ever wanted children? I think there was a brief moment when I was much younger where I thought that might be kind of cool, but I got over that very quickly. Do I like children? Okay, you know I was a high school teacher. So, you know, automatically you would assume if you're a teacher, you're working with kids, you like kids. I like older kids. Older kids get my jokes. Older kids I find more interesting. Little kids, I don't actually hate them. I just don't want them. And that was a conscious decision. Walter and I both made the decision. It wasn't just because we were gay. And so biologically, in our relationship, we couldn't create a family. But as I said, we could adopt. But we just chose not to have children. There are lots of straight couples out there who choose not to have children. And you know, some people in our society get really down on people who don't have children. This whole procreative or whatever, you know, thing that's there. So what does this have to do with my being pissed off at public childcare? It's money. It's my money. My money is being used through my taxes to subsidize daycare for parents who have children and they both work. Children are not my responsibility. No, I'm sorry. Children are not my responsibility. And I don't want to hear that whole line about, you know, protecting the future and that kind of thing. No, I don't buy that. One, there are too many children in the world today. And what I mean by that is we're overpopulated. We are strangling our planet on so many different levels through so many ways. And one of the ways that is contributing to that strangulation is the number of people we have inhabiting the planet. They're eating up the resources. They're polluting the environment. There's overcrowding. There's conflict. There's increase in poverty. All that kind of stuff. So people who have 3, 4, 5 children, I don't consider being responsible for the future. This is not helping the future. This is creating problems for the future, in my opinion, because it's creating overpopulation. The other thing is, people think that because they've had children, they are special. You are not. It's not hard to make a baby. And I would like to know how many of those babies that have been created were planned. You know, I think a lot of them were the result of, wow, had a few glasses of wine and put on some nice music and woohoo, one thing led to another and oops, 9 months later we have a baby. And I think that's irresponsible. Okay, but it happens. I know, I was a product of that myself. But don't put the burden to raise your children, to look after your children, on the rest of society. You had them, they're your responsibility. Why should I pay to help you out with your children? In my day, oh God, do I sound old when I say that? When I was born in the late 50s, there wasn't daycare. It wasn't subsidized by the government. In Canada, we had something called the baby bonus. My mother got a check for, I don't know how much money. It wasn't very much. That was something the government put out there to help families. And the idea was that until your child, I think, reached either 16 or 18, you would get one of these checks. I think it was for about 20 bucks. I have no idea. It was not a very large amount of money. And that was just to give families a little bit of a hand. Basically, it was giving them back some of the tax money they'd already put into the system. Okay, but that's all there was. Today, there's all these daycares. You hear these parents all complaining that the cost of daycare, yeah, it's really, really expensive. And if they've got more than one child, it's astronomical. But why do they need that? 2 people in the family. I'm talking about a 2-parent family. I'm not talking about single mothers or single fathers. I'm talking about a couple who have a couple of kids. They both work. You say, well, they have to work because life is expensive. No. Yes, life is expensive, but it also depends on the kind of lifestyle you want to live. A lot of these people that are bitching about how much daycare costs are 2 people who work, have a large house, have 2 cars, go out to eat a lot, order in food, have nice clothes, don't want to miss going to Disney World or anything, other things are out there, getting to the theater. These people are not prepared to do what they need to do to raise their children. They blame it on society, inflation, the government, everybody else, as though those are the things that should be responsible for the fact that they bred, that they had a child. That was their decision. Whether the decision was made logically or some other way that it was made, nevertheless, the child is their responsibility for about 18 years minimum. All right, so that's fine. My parents had 3 children. My mother never worked. Now you're going to say, well, that was because it was the 50s, the 60s, that kind of thing, the 70s. No, my parents had one income, my father's. His income wasn't huge. He had a decent job, but it wasn't huge. My mother, her job was to look after the house, look after her children. And she did. And she did a really good job at that. Did she have to sacrifice some things for that? Yes. My parents did not go on European vacations. They did not go down south in the wintertime for a couple of weeks. I didn't get to Walt Disney World until I was well into my 40s. I took myself. That just wasn't in the cards. We were housed, we were fed, we were clothed, we were looked after well, on one income. The house I grew up in, 900 square feet. Not a huge place. How many cars? One car. And it was not a Cadillac. Okay, I can tell you that. We didn't live in want. We lived quite well. But it was reasonable. There were certain things I didn't get because there wasn't any money for that. I didn't dare go to my mother and ask for money. A lot of kids did that. I didn't because I knew I was going to be told, no, you're not getting that. I started to work when I was 14 years old, part-time job, and that was the money, that was my money. I used it to buy myself clothes at that point. If I wanted something special, something different, I'd save up for it. I don't feel I was neglected because of that. But today, these parents are neglecting their children because someone else is raising them. I mean, if they're working and they're commuting, a lot of them, and this is where this all came from. On the news last week, parents were upset because the Ontario government, on the one hand, the Ontario government's saying they're putting, or the federal government is putting more money into subsidizing daycare. On the other hand, they've put in new regulations declaring what is and what isn't daycare. So I guess there's some of these after-school programs that people are taking advantage of. So like they have kids that are in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and up. And I guess after school, they can go to this center and, you know, they play games, they educate them. You know, it's an extended program until the parents can arrive to pick them up. And I guess they had to change their hours, and that wasn't convenient for a lot of parents in terms of their work hours and things like that. So they were all upset about this. And they're upset at the government for doing this, as if it's the government's responsibility to help them raise their kids. It is not. Those kids are theirs. It's their responsibility. So suck it up. Sell a car. Downsize your house. Do you need a 4,000 square foot house to raise 1.2 children in? Rethink your vacations. Do you really need to go to Paris? Or could you go to Paris, Ontario? You know, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but really that's the mindset. So I hate it when I get into a room full of, and I'm going to call them breeders, okay, because that's what they are to us. And they start going on about their kids, and then they start bitching about how the government and other institutions aren't doing enough for them to help them raise children because raising children is expensive. Yeah, it's always been expensive to raise children. Of course, if I open my mouth and say anything that criticizes them for this, then I get this look and I get told, well, what would you know? You don't have any children. My answer to them is, damn right. I don't have any children, and that was my choice. Your choice was to have children. When you make choices, there are consequences. Your consequences are those little individuals that you created. They are your responsibility. Look after them. They are not mine. They don't belong to me. It's not my responsibility. Simple as that. So I know this is going to get some of you out there with the motherly instincts all upset about it, and I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. Try to think about it from the standpoint of those of us that don't have children. And instead of thinking, and many people do, instead of looking down your nose at us as though we have for some reason have not contributed to the future of our society, or for some reason we are not complete human beings because we have chosen not to have children, you're wrong. Everything in life is prioritized. Children were not a priority for me. And I have lived with the consequences of that, and I have enjoyed the consequences of that. If you chose to have children, there are consequences. Suck it up and deal with it. Simple as that. So, again, why I'm pissed off is my money is going to raise somebody else's kids, and I don't think that's right at all. They are your responsibility, nobody else's. Okay, off my soapbox. All right, so moving on. New stuff. Okay, somebody asked me, did I ever get around to making, I think I mentioned this as a technique, the glue box. glue sponges. Yes, I did. How are they working out? Not as well as I thought, but I'll show you here. So if you don't remember that or what I said, you get a sandwich container, a disposable sandwich container. You put a couple of sponges into it. You pour white glue, Elmer's school glue, whatever, on top of the sponges, and on the bottom you can see the glue's in here. It's still wet, it's running. I don't want it to run out, but you get the idea. The sponges absorb the glue, and they have, and it's very gluey. Ew. And this is great when you want to, you know, you're doing collage work or that kind of thing. Now, I tried using that when I was creating this booklet. The pages were a little big. I don't know if I didn't have enough glue at the time, because I wasn't getting it very gluey. But I have since added more glue to this. It's quite heavy, actually. There's quite a bit of glue in here. And you should let it sit for a couple of days, sealed up, the lid on it. Just going to let the glue run down on the sides of it. Keep it gluey there. Okay, so that the sponges absorb the glue. So I'm not going to say that this is a total fail, because other people have used it quite successfully. And I have seen a lot of videos with people who are school teachers, elementary school teachers, and they make up a whole pile of these for their kids in school. They think it's wonderful with that. So I will continue to use it. Maybe when I'm working in this little journal for the smaller pieces, put them on and see how that works out. So anyways, I made it. It's a neat idea. Okay, I'm just not sure if it suits my purposes or not completely. Okay, what else? Well, let's see. I haven't bought anything really new to show you in the past week, but we are going tomorrow to the one-of-a-kind show in Toronto. They have this every year. It's artisans and other people. I really don't know exactly what to expect, except that I know that it's extremely popular. They have it every year for a couple of weeks, and this is the first time that we're going to be able to go to it. So we're going to go tomorrow. Going during the week, in my mind, will be less people. If you go on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, it's probably just a zoo. It may be a bit of a zoo tomorrow. I don't know, because I know it's popular. And I'm not going there so much to buy things, but I'm going there to look at things and get some ideas for future projects, that kind of thing. Also, we're going to go to the Christmas market in what we call the Distillery District. It's a touristy area. It's an old distillery in Toronto. It's got a lot of art galleries in it, but apparently there's big sale there. You know, again, artisans, vendors, that kind of thing. Costs some money to get in. I don't know how much. I think it's probably about 20 bucks or something like that. But again, we're going to go there and take a look around. So we're going to spend the day in Toronto at these two events. Maybe do dinner when we're down there. I don't know. I think we're going to take the GO train in as opposed to driving and looking for parking spots. And then, of course, by the time we're ready to come home, it'll be rush hour. So we might be there a little bit longer to avoid the rush hour or whatever. But the GO train's probably the way to go. With that, it's a commuter train for those of you not from this area. So anyways, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. And let's see. Oh yeah, what else did we do this week? Well, I did my first tour of the season at the art gallery. It was a tour for a group of seniors, and well, the reports that came back to the art gallery was they seemed to love it. They thought I was great. Always nice to hear. The person in the art gallery who sort of is the overseer of programs and the education department and that, she seemed to be a little uptight about this whole tour business. She wanted me to use a microphone. I think I mentioned that. I said to the group, okay, here's my voice. Here's my voice with a microphone. Which would you prefer? They went with my voice. I don't have any problem projecting. So, you know, that worked out fine, and they were a lovely group. I actually learned some things from them as well. Some of them actually knew some of the artists I was talking about and some of the history behind some of the pieces and things like that. So, you know, you go and it's a two-way street. I give them some information, they gave me some information. So it was a very pleasant tour. And on Saturday night, we had what they call RMG Exposed. This is the major fundraiser for the year for the art gallery. And you saw yesterday, if you tuned in, or if you're watching the rebroadcast, I showed you the two pieces, or the two prints, photographic prints, that Walter and I bought for our house. It was part of the silent auction that they had. And we're very pleased with both pieces, and we didn't spend a lot of money on them, but they're very nice, and now we have to get them framed, which will probably cost us more than what we paid for the prints. But it was a fun night, and I talked all about that yesterday, so I'm not going to go into it again. You can check out Stephen and Walter live if you're interested, and you'll hear all about it, and you'll see the artwork. So that's what was on last week, and this week what's coming up, we have we're at the art gallery again on Friday night because it's our monthly RMG Fridays, as they call it, and Walter and I are gallery attendants and that kind of thing, so we do that. Saturday, in the middle of the afternoon to early evening, we've been invited to a baby shower for the daughter of the woman that I used to work for in the scrapbooking store. So we've got that to go to, and then on Sunday I'm teaching my art journaling class, and then we have Stephen and Walter live. So we've got a busy few days coming up, and in between all of this, I've got to get what few decorations I'm putting up. I got to start planning too. I got to start planning the dinner, like Christmas dinner and everything like that, and I'm a list maker, so you know, I'll have to start making my list of things, my timeline for all of this. I'm a type A personality when it comes to that kind of stuff. I make lists about lists. Then I lose them and I have to make a list about where I put them. So anyways, so that's what's coming up. So anyways, nothing else more to tell you. I hope you have a good week. And remember, Stephen and Walter Live will be this Sunday, but at a different time. It'll be around 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time as opposed to 4 o'clock. And I hope you have a really great week. Bye-bye for now.